I mean, one of the things that I want to know is true or false that you would go on air because you were live. You would tell everybody what happened in WWE so they wouldn't watch that and then they would watch you. Is that true?
Absolutely.
So that's why Vince hated you.
No, not only would I do that, I went to my network president, Brad Siegel, and I said, Brad, their show comes on at 8 o'clock. My show comes on at 8 o'clock. I want to come on at 7:58. So that when people tune into me, they know I can give them all of the information about what's going to happen in WWE before it even comes on the air. Well, and I did that.
Smart.
That is the craziest tool. And do you think that helped the audience fall in love with you more as well, personally? Because they're like, this guy's giving us the juice.
It was a love-hate thing because, I was turning the tradition of professional wrestling completely upside down, shaking it out and throwing out the parts I didn't want and putting new parts in. And people hate that. Nobody likes change. Yeah. And I was coming, and they were number one. Like I was a distant number two. It would be like me picking a fight with Rampage. People look at that and go, what the hell are you doing that for? But it's also what got people interested because it was kind of crazy. And it got people to tune in to see what kind of silly shit I would do next. And I just kept doing more and more silly shit.
I mean, at one point, I believe it's, I think it was Bret Hart loses a match to Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels then I think that was called the screw job, right?
The Montreal screw job.
The Montreal screw job. And then, Shawn Michaels becomes a face at WWE. And then at this point, they're trying to figure out what to do. They need a new face, right? They got to go against you. I'm believing this is around the right time, something around that era. At what point did Vince McMahon then hit you up to then come in and be a character on WWE? Because then you end up, I remember videos of you kind of going against Stone Cold Steve Austin and he's yelling at you and Vince is in the ring and you're fighting Vince. And I'm like, this is crazy. I used to watch this guy in WCW.
Yeah. Well, about 1999, I got fired. No, I still had 2.5 years left on my contract. So when I say I got fired, I just jumped in my plane and went fishing. It was no big deal. I wasn't too worried about my next job at that point. But I left in 99. They realized a couple months after they sent me home that they probably screwed up. So they offered to bring me back. But I had a really good agent here in LA at the time. And I said, okay, here's the deal. You got to pay me out 100% on the contract that I already have. And then you're going to write me a new contract. And oh, by the way, I want a 3-movie deal in that package so that not only am I going to come to work, and by the way, I'm not going to be an employee. I'm going to be a consultant, an independent contractor. I'll oversee the creative, but I don't want to manage anybody. I don't want to have to come to anybody's office. I'm not doing any of that stuff. And I want you to guarantee me that you're going to buy 3 movies from me. Now, I had no intention of being a movie guy, but I knew if I had that commitment from Turner Broadcasting, I could leverage that here in town and end up being involved in the movie business, even though I didn't know anything about it. So I got that deal. And I was there for about 2 or 3 months, and then it just got worse. So they sent me home again. And it was shortly after that. And then fast forward, WWE buys WCW.
Yeah.
And it was about a year after they bought WCW that I got a phone call from Vince. I lived in Scottsdale, Arizona. I was sitting at my office. I had a casita out there separate in my office, and I get a phone call. Said, hey, pal, Vince McMahon here. We talked for about 3 minutes. I knew I was going to come back and just did.
But during that time, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you go back and try to buy WCW and all the footage, but then you would have nothing to do with it, and then Vince heard that and kind of bought you out?
Well, and he didn't buy me out. Well, I put together a deal with a couple of guys that were very, very successful on Wall Street. We raised $67 million to purchase WCW from Turner Broadcasting. That deal was announced. My partners in that deal were pretty high-profile venture capitalists. So we did a Wall Street, dog and pony show and announced the sale of WCW to my group. The group that I was a part of. And everything was going fine. We're doing all the due diligence, going through contracts, making sure everything was in order. And at the very last minute, we got a phone call and said, no, deal's off the table. They're taking it off the table. They don't want to sell to you.
Wow.
And that's when Vince swooped in and bought it.